If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm Katherine Hansen, and I'm glad to be here with you today. I hope this podcast can be a valuable resource for you as you let go of the struggle with food. I know many of you started 2023 with a strong commitment to recovery, and I want to help you just keep going toward lasting change. I think it's really common that around this time, toward the end of January and into February, that initial enthusiasm surrounding the new year tends to fade. And this isn't really a bad thing. It's only natural that the initial spark that gets you going doesn't last forever. But it's really important to know that just because motivation may not feel as high, that does not have to affect what you do. No one is going to feel excited about recovery every day, especially when it feels uncomfortable. It's about continuing to do what you need to do day after day until new habits take hold. If you find yourself not feeling as excited about recovery, it's helpful to take some time to remind yourself why you're committed to ending this habit. Remind yourself of the harm it created in your life and what you truly want for your life. If you have been binge-free so far this year, that's absolutely wonderful, and I'm sure you're experiencing the amazing benefits of that. But there could also be a reality that is setting in as well. You may be realizing, what I often say on the show, that ending binge eating does not suddenly make life perfect or take away your problems. And in the early days of recovery, you may really feel the toll that binge eating took on your life. You may have regret about lost time, or choices that you made while you were struggling with the eating disorder. You may worry about the money you've spent on food or the relationships that suffered because of this. Or you may wonder when your weight or appetite will regulate and when eating will start to feel normal again. It's so important to realize that this is normal, and over time it will get better, and you'll be so glad that you kept going through these difficult moments that you may be having now. If you're someone who has had a binge since your renewed commitment this year, the last thing you ever want to do is give up on recovery. You are also going to be so glad that you kept going and that you did not let any binges stop you from working on changing your brain. Having a binge, having difficult life problems, not really knowing how you're supposed to eat or what your natural weight may end up being, these are challenges that you can absolutely face. I don't want you to ever think that you have to have everything figured out or do everything perfectly. When you think that recovery is going to be a perfectly smooth ride, you set yourself up to fall for thoughts that say, oh well, this is not what I hoped for, so I might as well go back to binging. Commit to never doing that because you deserve better. The topic of today's show is going to help you with this. Coach Julie and I will talk about the idea of acceptance, which applies to so many things in recovery and in life in general. When we accept things as they are, it grounds us. It allows us to see our life, our thoughts, our actions, our emotions for what they are, and not try to fix them or cover them up or pretend everything is okay. Acceptance allows us to face what we're facing with a sense of calm and a greater capacity to deal with what is. Acceptance also puts us in a much better position to make the changes that we want, because when we're grounded and not denying our experience, we're able to think more clearly and take the actions that align with our integrity, values, and commitments. So I hope this conversation helps you use acceptance to support and further your commitment to being binge-free this year and always. I'm so glad to have you back.
Hi, Katherine. I'm so happy to be back.
Today we're going to talk about acceptance and the importance we think acceptance has in recovery as you let go of binging, as you learn to eat normally. So, Julie, can you kind of explain just the basic framework in which you think about acceptance?
Yeah. So, I do have a background as a mindfulness teacher, and mindfulness is all about allowing what is, being with what is in this moment right now as it is. And so this spills out into all of the coaching that I do. But I think the big piece that we can start with here is accepting and allowing urges, right? We expect and allow urges to be there because urges are how we change the brain. Urges are where the healing happens. And so it starts there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because when we fight it, when we think, oh, this urge shouldn't be here, why is this happening to me? What's wrong with me? We basically fight our experience, which makes it a lot harder to deal with.
Exactly. Resistance to it always leads to it getting stronger and stronger and stronger. That's one of the ways that urges get stronger is by resisting them. So I always say you need to expect and allow urges and see them as a chance to change your brain. But it also plays out in so many other pieces to the recovery puzzle because the other part of being able to expect and allow urges is eating adequately, accepting that you can't get around that you can't be the person who's trying to restrict or diet or eat just enough and then be able to allow urges. And so it's coming to that place of acceptance that eating adequately is non-negotiable. It is the path.
Yeah, it's such an important part. I love as we begin this podcast that you're hitting on both parts of recovery, the dismissing the urges or accepting the urges and allowing them to be there and not acting on them. And then also the piece of eating adequately because they're both so important. You're not going to be able to change your brain. You're not going to be able to free yourself of this habit until you eat adequately. And acceptance is a big part of that because it comes down to accepting that you need to nourish your body and accepting the weight that your body ends up being. And that's, I'm sure we'll get into that as well.
That's right. Well, and also it's accepting the futility of what you've done before.
For sure. To let go of that mindset of I need to restrict, I need to diet, I need to be a certain weight, and to accept that that path is only going to lead you to harm. It's a big step in recovery, and anyone who's made that step and who has given up that mindset and that dieting restrictive mentality, there's so many benefits on the other side. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Infinite benefits on the other side. And again, it was only when I finally accepted that eating adequately was key, probably top of the pile, because you can't allow urges unless you eat adequately. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until I went there that everything else fell into place. But maybe we should get to some other parts of that acceptance puzzle that I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Like when you're working with clients, either in the group or in one-on-one coaching, what areas do you see that acceptance comes into play the most?
Yeah, well, I think that it's also necessary to accept uncertainty of how things are going to unfold, uncertainty about a timeline, uncertainty about our ability to do this. It's okay. You can do it without 100% believing in it at first. Like you can accept, maybe I'm not 100% sure of this, but I know what I didn't do before worked. I know what I did before didn't work. Sorry. And so maybe I can give this a try because everything else didn't work before. And I can accept that I'm feeling a little uncertain, feeling a little bit of disbelief, and that's okay.
Yeah, it seems like giving up trying to control everything, giving up clinging to certain paths that have not been effective to you, giving up clinging to certain diets or weight numbers or things like that. It's about, stepping back from our experience and realizing that there is a lot that we don't have control over. Mm-hmm. And the sooner you can kind of come to that realization and an acceptance of that, the smoother the path gets, I believe.
Absolutely. And then there's acceptance of other people. And by that, I mean, other people come in all shapes and sizes. Other people eat in all kinds of ways. Other people say all kinds of things. And none of it matters to our recovery. We can still recover regardless of what other people say, do, how they live, how they eat.
Yeah, I love that. We can hear things out in the world. We can have conversations with friends or family, and certain topics can come up that maybe in the past would have, quote unquote, triggered you or would have made you anxious and fall into certain habitual behaviors. But it's about being able to hear these things, being able to experience certain feelings and thoughts and not follow that with harmful behaviors. And I think acceptance is kind of where that sort of magic happens, in the ability to not let your thoughts and feelings lead to harmful behaviors.
Absolutely. And it's a brilliant segue into the other part of acceptance. And these are really in no particular order, but acceptance of all emotions. One of the big things that I teach in the group with my clients is learning how to process and feel all emotions, because urges actually are just a feeling of over desire. And the same skills apply with all the other uncomfortable emotions and discomfort in and of itself. But, fear, loneliness, grief, confusion, insecurity. It's about expecting and allowing all emotions, just like we expect and allow urges. And from that place, we develop this skill of feeling and processing all emotions instead of turning to food, because food can never fix an emotion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a really good reminder to give to people that it's never the solution. Obviously, binging only makes emotions worse, only makes problems worse. And it's not that you have to learn to handle any emotion perfectly to avoid binging. It's that you can learn to just have emotions go through you, just like urges, and not have to act on them, not have to let them lead you to harmful behaviors. It's such a powerful insight, I think, overall. I mean, I remember, and those of you who have read my books know that sort of working on emotions and trying to change them or cope with them better, it wasn't effective as far as helping me stop binging. But I think overall, talking about emotions more in general, trying to fix them and change them, as I often try to do in therapy. And still, that's sort of a therapeutic technique to challenge a thought and try to change it. And there's definitely value in that in some areas of life. But I really find that acceptance is so much more powerful just in handling the stuff that happens every day. And it doesn't mean you just allow bad things to happen to you. Yeah, you can take action where you feel you need to take action, but just trying to change every thought or emotion that comes up or trying to fix everything in your life is kind of a losing battle.
Absolutely. That's it. We have our emotions. We're meant to have them. We're meant to have a range of emotions, and there's nothing to fix. They're all perfectly valid. They are all meant to be there. We are meant to feel them, and they're not to be fixed or changed. They're meant to be processed through us. They happen in the body and they move through the body. And when we try to fix them, when we resist them, when we think this shouldn't be happening, and same with urges to binge, this shouldn't be happening, then they stick around a whole lot longer.
It translates into so many other areas of life where you can learn to experience all the things of life, even the negative things, without letting it get you off your own path or the goals you want to move toward or the person you want to be.
Yeah. And as always, accepting that binging always and only makes everything worse. Accepting that binging is never a solution.
Yeah, Julie, I think that's really helpful as far as emotions. What other areas can people listening use acceptance to, help themselves in recovery?
Yeah. So again, accepting the pace of your journey and the length of your journey, getting back to allowing what is. This is where you are right now, and you're going to get there on your timeline.
For sure. And I know that both of us believe that recovery is possible for anyone, no matter how long you've been doing this. And we're never saying, oh, you should just accept where you are and not make improvements. It's that when you accept where you are, that's when you have more of an ability to make those improvements and to make those changes.
Absolutely. Exactly what I'm talking about. And then another thing about acceptance is accepting that learning moments are meant to happen. They are part of the process, that there is no perfect path out of this. So there are going to be moments where you overeat. There are going to be moments where you might act on a binge. And when you accept that learning moments are going to be there, then you can take it for the great lesson that it's there to teach you without any extra suffering.
If you do have times when you feel like you did not eat perfectly, you did not do all the perfect things in recovery, and you don't accept that, you don't accept that you're an imperfect human, you might just think, oh, all is lost. I'm going to go back to square one. So I think acceptance allows you to learn from what happened, allows you to move forward with renewed focus without feeling like you failed.
Exactly. Because there is no failure here. And then another piece of this also is accepting that this path is about finding your own unique formula, that this is not about following what Katherine Hansen or Julie eats or what some diet book eats or what some podcaster is telling you to do. This is about finding foods you love that love you back in amounts that leave you sated so that you can expect and allow urges in between. And that is a messy process. And so accepting the messiness of that.
Yeah, that's super helpful because I do think there is a tendency to cling to a path that someone else took or cling to a certain way of eating that someone else is telling you to do. But really stepping back and accepting that this is your own path. Every individual who's listening to this is your own path. And certain things that worked for me may not work for you. Certain things that work for Julie may not work for you. And it's really all about accepting that you can get help along the way. You can get support. Of course, we provide many forms of support, but ultimately this is your own unique path to recovery, and you have to use what works for you along the way.
Totally. And then the last area that I want to talk about is accepting that we have human brains. And by that, I mean, we have brains that are wired to look for danger. You know, we have a moment where we're ready to celebrate because we expected and allowed an urge and we want to celebrate, and our brain is going to jump in and say, yeah, but that wasn't a perfect meal, or yeah, but you're not at the weight that you want to be, or yeah, but it's taking too long, or yeah, but you don't know how to eat, or whatever it's going to say. And just trusting, oh yeah, I have a human brain. And when my human brain throws out one of those fear thoughts, it means I'm growing. And I can expect and allow my brain to do that. I can accept that I have a human brain like everybody else.
Yeah, that's perfect, because I think learning how the brain works and learning these natural tendencies that we all have, it really allows you to get some space between you and your sort of harmful thoughts and fearful thoughts and anxious thoughts. It allows you to say, like you said, oh, I have a human brain. This is just sort of a normal part of how my brain operates. And once you can accept that, the more you can just continue on, like I said before, with your goals, with how you want to live your life, and not let all of that interfere. You know, you may still hear all that noise in the background every now and then, but it doesn't have to throw you off track. I think the more we sort of take that seriously and really listen to those anxious and fearful thoughts and those thoughts that tell us we're not good enough, the harder everything gets. And the more we can accept who we are and our more primitive selves and habitual selves and these more sort of ancient pathways in our brain, the more we can focus on our higher selves.
Absolutely, 100%. And, you know, it gets us back kind of full circle that when we allow what is, when we accept the way things are in all of their forms, and that resistance goes away, everything becomes easier. And then it brings us right back to the simple path of recovery, which is eating adequately, expecting and allowing urges, and celebrating.
Yeah. And accepting that your recovered self will not be perfect. And I know you hit on this, but I think that was so important to my own recovery, to many people I've worked with, is you have this vision of yourself after recovery that, oh, I'm going to be eating perfectly. I'm going to be this ideal weight. I'm going to not struggle with emotions or problems or things like that. And the sooner you can accept that recovery just brings you back to normal. I mean, there are so many benefits there. It's so worth it to recover, but accepting your imperfections is huge. And we've done a podcast on imperfections, and I'll link that in the show notes as well. But that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
This has been so helpful. I know that everyone is benefiting a lot from learning about acceptance. How do you incorporate this into the Brain Over Binge group as you work with people on ending the habit, on ending their struggle with food?
Yeah, I mean, it is a really big piece of how I coach, right? Helping people allow for what is, helping people be with where they are right now, and seeing that they're exactly where they're meant to be, that they've always been spiraling up, that nobody is too far gone, that it doesn't matter what you ate yesterday, that where you are right now in this moment is the exact moment for your next step into recovery. And that comes through acceptance.
Yeah. And when you accept where you are, and when you accept that the end result of recovery is going to be an imperfect you, then I think it's just a really powerful place from which to approach recovery.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. This has been very helpful, and look forward to talking to you again on the podcast next time.
Yes, Catherine. So great to be with you as always.
Thank you for listening to our discussion. I hope some of the ideas and insights allow you to accept where you are now and continue to follow your own unique path toward your goals. If you want more help creating your plan for 2023 or troubleshooting any problems that you've had so far, or you just want to ask a question, Coach Julie is going to do a free coaching call on January 28th. So if you're listening at the time this is released, that is this Saturday, January 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The call will be on Zoom for 30 minutes, and I've put a link to join that call in the show description, so you can just click on it at the time of the call this Saturday. If you want email reminders for this free call, or if you want to be notified of any future opportunities like this, you can subscribe to my email list, which you can also do in the show description or on the homepage of brainoverbinge.com. When you sign up to get my emails, you also get some valuable resources to support your recovery. So please join Julie on Saturday. I know you'll find it extremely helpful and that it will motivate you to keep working toward positive and lasting change. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to talking to you again next time. As you accept where you are now and also visualize where you want to be in the future, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life. The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey. Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.